Hey there, this is a weekly compilation video that combines a number of my shorter videos into one longer video. If there's one of the videos you're particularly interested in, there should be chapters on this video and in the pinned comment. Otherwise, grab a snack and have fun. Let's get this started. So, have you guys heard what's happening with the Watcher YouTube channel? I've watched them in the past, pretty much only their ghost hunting videos though, and they put out some really high quality stuff. I think it's fair to say that they had a lot of audience goodwill built up too, since the main guys on Watcher, Ryan and Shane, originally came from BuzzFeed, where they made one of the only good BuzzFeed shows, and they managed to move their viewers from there over to the Watcher channel when they left BuzzFeed. Unfortunately for them, it seems like they've just lit all their built up audience goodwill on fire and tossed it into a trash can. Today, let's talk about how the guys over at Watcher single-handedly tanked their channel in a day. What do I mean? Well, on last Friday, they posted this video called Goodbye YouTube, where they announced that they're launching their own streaming service called Watcher TV, and that going forward, they'll only be posting the first episode of the seasons of their shows to YouTube, and if you want to see the rest of any of their shows, you'll have to be subscribed to their new streaming service.
But you know, all this to say, you'll still occasionally see us on YouTube. We're going to post trailers for our shows there. We're going to have the season premieres of all of our series on there. But if you want to watch the full seasons of all of our content, the streamer will be the exclusive home for all of that starting May 31st.
Which, let me just say, in my opinion, is perhaps the stupidest thing I've ever seen a YouTuber do. Now, I'm not saying that there haven't been YouTubers that have launched successful streamers before. Nebula is a streaming service that was made by creators to post videos that they don't upload on YouTube. But with Nebula, it's extra videos. All those creators still post the stuff people originally subscribed for on their YouTube channels. Just some extra content goes up on Nebula. What Watcher is doing with Watcher TV is taking the stuff people have been able to watch for free on their YouTube channel and locking most of it behind a paywall. You know what people hate the most? When you take something that was free and you make them pay for it. I'm not sure how they expected this to go well at all. Then, it's not like they're asking a really reasonable price for the streaming service either, at least in my opinion. This was one of the major things about the video announcement that made people mad, because they announced that it's going to be $5.99 a month, because that's a price everyone can afford.
You can become a member of Watcher for $5.99 a month or $59.99 a year.
We want to keep the price low enough where anybody and everybody is able to afford it.
Which, I mean, is a hot take, because I think in the current era of completely unrestricted inflation, people have a lot less money to throw around in general. So by saying that everyone can afford $5.99 a month, they're basically calling people who can't fit that into their budget poor. Not an ideal thing to do to your customer base. Plus, like, $5.99 a month for their videos is a lot. From what they say in the announcement video, it sounds like they're just going to have their YouTube videos on there to start, plus some new shows down the line. But if you look at their YouTube channel, they seem to pretty much just upload once a week. How is that amount of content production worth $5.99 a month? HBO Max is just $15.99 a month, basically 3x what they're asking people to pay for Watcher TV. Tell me, do you think that Watcher TV will have anywhere near 1/3 the content that Max has? Not to mention, everyone I know is already annoyed at the number of things they're subscribed to. No one wants to add another streaming service. On top of that, there's this very valid question people have of, why do they even need more money? Because they say in the video that they want to launch this because they don't want to be as reliant on ad money, since it restricts what they can make.
We have realized that it would be great if we could find a way to rely less on advertising, not make it such a big part of our business. So we've been working over the past few months and years, like, how can we make this business more sustainable? How can we make something where we can make the things that we want to make for all of you guys and not be worried about all the other forces that are here?
But the thing about this is that they already have a very popular Patreon, which, while I'm writing this, has nearly 13,000 patrons who pay monthly, according to the statistics they leave public. Which, by the way, they choose to hide the monthly figure that they're pulling in on Patreon, which is a statistic that they can make public if they want, and one that might just help them make their point if they're really not making enough money. Ludwig's podcast, The Yard, keeps the monthly income figure public, just as proof it's something you can do, and give you an idea of the kind of money creators make with Patreon, though keep in mind that The Yard Patreon has significantly more subscribers than Watcher does. But if you take a look at Watcher's Patreon tiers, you'll see firstly that the lowest tier is $5 a month. So if we were to assume that every single subscriber is paying the lowest tier, which is very unlikely, that's roughly 13,000 times 5, which would be roughly $65,000 a month. Considering the highest tier tier they have is $100 a month, it's hard to imagine that they really need to move to their own streaming site. In my opinion, if those numbers are even close to accurate, they're probably making way more from Patreon than they do from ads every month, not counting sponsorships. I have no idea what those numbers would be for sponsorships. Oh, and also, people are mad because right now it looks like even the paying Patreon subscribers would still have to subscribe to the new streaming site to continue watching full seasons of something they've already been supporting on Patreon. I think they'll probably end up giving Patreon's free membership to the streaming site eventually though, because if they don't, that would be the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. The question is, why are they doing this? Well, like I mentioned earlier, money. They claim that they get the majority of their revenue from ads, and that a number of their series are very expensive to produce, and the increased revenue a streaming service will bring in will let them expand their shows and increase the quality, which, well, you'd think they'd know better than to try to bloat their company full of too many people and spend too much money on shows, considering they came from BuzzFeed, which is famous for doing just that. I genuinely think that a more aggressive push to get people to subscribe to their Patreon would have probably worked out better for them than this, but that's just my opinion. What I think really happened is something way too common. Basically, they probably let their YouTube channel become too corporate, which means that they might have hired some corpos or took on outside investment, and that corpo or investor read some Forbes article about how streaming services are the future and decided that he wanted to make them make their own streaming service. And the original Watcher people let themselves get talked into it because streaming services are very corporate, and the decision to try and move to one makes zero sense for someone who knows about YouTube to do. And the Watcher guys clearly know how YouTube works. They're very successful, so it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's also very possible that they just started taking themselves way too seriously and no one wanted to ego check them. So they started thinking of themselves like a TV channel and they decided they're above YouTube now. Considering one of the guys says that they wanted to make their videos to TV quality, I think this is a decent guess too.
We try to put things on the screen that we feel adheres to a certain level of quality that you would find on, say, a Netflix or something like that.
But at the end of the day, what happens now? Well, the problem is that launching a streaming website isn't cheap, and if they've already built the thing, they're going to have spent tons of money on it, let alone the ongoing costs for as long as they keep it up. If it doesn't manage to pull in as much as they wanted, there's a good chance that this could financially ruin them. Granted, I don't know what their financials look like, but I can't imagine they're not sweating right now. The reception to this announcement was so negative that I think they probably really can't move forward with the streaming service, at least not in the form that it's in right now. But if they were to cancel it, they're basically lighting the money they spent on it on fire. They put themselves in a lose-lose situation here. Either they ruin their YouTube channel and their ability to acquire new customers to their streaming site, or they cut the streaming site loose and try to desperately apologize and save the channel. Both of them are not going to be very easy to do. Most likely, they'll try to split it somehow, like lowering the price or continuing to upload full series on YouTube for a limited time and then archiving them to the streaming site after a while or something. I don't really see that working though. Of course, it's also entirely possible, though I think unlikely, considering the reception, that the streamer is a massive success and they keep going. In which case, even if they still upload the first episodes of their seasons on YouTube like they said they will, their channel is still going to fade into obscurity. It's actually amazing to see people do something so completely out of touch with their audience though. I mean, especially since they had so many subscribers on Patreon. They probably could have just sent a survey or something out to those people to see how they'd feel about this, because given the general audience reaction, my bet would be that the Patreons, who already pay, might also not be very happy about it. So what do you think happens next? Do they go full steam ahead, ignore the detractors, and continue with the streaming service? Do they give up and scrap the whole thing and absorb whatever financial cost that causes? Do you think their channel can even survive either way? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. After all, you watched the whole video. Have a great day and God bless you. So on Monday, we talked about the guys at Watcher making a mistake that quite literally could have ruined their entire YouTube channel and end their careers, all in one foul swoop. Now they're backpedaling and apologizing, trying to revert as much brand damage as they can. They put up a video called An Update where they address what happened. Now, I've seen a lot of YouTubers saying that their apology was good, but personally, I think that it wasn't. It was basically just a quick panic response that seems to have been written by a PR team and entirely misses the core reason that people were upset. So today, let's talk about that. Now, if you don't know what I'm blathering on about, a quick recap is that the guys over at Watcher, which is a YouTube channel with over 2.8 million subscribers, started by Ryan and Shane, who were previously on BuzzFeed Unsolved. Basically, they do some cool ghost hunt videos and a bunch of other stuff, but I've only ever seen the ghost hunt videos. They decided in their infinite wisdom that they'd outgrown the platform that made them successful, YouTube, and they wanted to abandon it in order to launch their own streaming service, Watcher TV. That would cost $5.99 a month. Specifically, they were going to only leave the first episodes of any season of their show on YouTube and make you buy the streaming service to get everything else. This really made people angry, for the obvious reason that no one wants to pay for another streaming service, especially for something that's been free on YouTube forever. Then there were complaints about how their large number of monthly paying Patreon subscribers were not given a free subscription to the streaming site. Basically, they wanted to double dip on their own patrons. Oh, and the entire announcement video had this really arrogant and better than thou tone to it, especially when they said that everyone can afford to give them $5.99 a month.
You can become a member of Watcher for $5.99 a month or $59.99 a year.
We want to keep the price low enough where anybody and everybody is able to afford it.
So yeah, people were not happy. I wouldn't have wanted to be in their office over the weekend because I bet they were running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Pretty much every comment on the announcement video was negative. No one likes streaming services. But later in the day on Monday, they decided to backtrack. They posted this video called An Update, where they respond to the entire situation and explain the changes that they're going to make to the entire model they had planned. Now, a lot of YouTubers have said that this response video was good, but it really isn't. At least to me, it doesn't really feel sincere. It feels like a PR move, like another terrible YouTuber apology. I mean, look at how they opened the video.
Hey everyone, last Friday we announced that we're leaving YouTube and launching our new streaming platform.
We messed up. A lot of you spoke out with extremely valid comments and concerns, and we want to take the time now to address those.
We've been reading the things you've been saying, and we're sorry for the way we handled this, as well as the way we communicated it. We understand where you're coming from, and we're making immediate changes.
First, we want to affirm that you are the reason why we've been able to do anything at this company. You helped us every step of the way when we left BuzzFeed to start Watcher at the top of the pandemic in 2020.
You've supported us in so many ways by watching our content, attending our live shows, buying our merch, becoming members of our Patreon, and giving words of encouragement over the years. And we are incredibly grateful for your support.
We're sorry for how we originally delivered our goodbye message to YouTube. It was insensitive. We didn't properly express how much we appreciate all of you. And we did a really bad job of explaining the reasoning behind this transition.
It's obviously scripted. The first thing they do is the classic, "We want to thank you for all of your support over the years," and "we didn't express how much we need you guys" type stuff, basically to try to play off the parasocial relationship to make fans feel bad for doubting them. Only after that do they get into the apology. I mean, maybe I'm just not plugged into their stuff enough, but like, that doesn't actually feel like a real apology to me. It feels like they're reading from a script. Immediately after that, they go into more detail with what they're apologizing for and what changes they're making. They start by saying that they're sorry for saying that $5.99 is a price everyone can afford, and that they didn't take into account how it would affect the viewer. But I'm pretty sure what they really mean to say is, we didn't take into account that the price would be high enough to make you guys mad.
We also want to deeply apologize for our ignorance around the impact of the cost. We regret stating and implying that it's a price that anybody can afford, and we fully acknowledge that it is not. We didn't take the proper consideration for how this cost would affect you, and hope you know that we are taking this as a serious learning experience.
Now that feels kind of hollow, especially when you realize that as far as I can tell, the price for the streaming service is still set at $5.99 a month. So they know it's too much for people, but they're not changing the price? How does that make sense? Especially since they go on to mention that they're changing the streaming service's model. If you were to sign up for $5.99 now, you're getting less for your money than you would have originally.
With that in mind, we're making some changes to ensure that there's a way for our community to continue watching our content for free.
If you want to watch our shows early and ad-free, you can catch them on the Watcher platform a month earlier. After that, you'll be able to watch our shows on YouTube for free. For those that have already subscribed to the platform, we are so grateful for your support, but if this change has you rethinking your membership, we will issue a full refund. And all past episodes and series will remain available on YouTube.
This is the first good thing that they've announced, posting videos a month early on the streaming site, allowing full refunds for people who already bought it, and keeping all their videos on YouTube, just posting them a month later than on the streaming site. Those are all good moves. The problem is that the videos being available a month early should have been the model from the beginning. I mean, look at Nebula, which is a streaming service made by YouTubers. Basically, its entire draw is that your favorite creators upload a little early on it, and sometimes they put up an extra video or two. I don't know why they didn't just go with that business model, because it already works, and they should have just done that from the beginning with Watcher TV. Also, I feel like it's only fair to point out that they don't need a streaming service to do what they're doing here. They already have a successful Patreon. They could just release the videos early there. Plenty of creators do just that. It just doesn't make much sense to have even considered making a separate streaming service at all. I mean, they try to explain why they did it, but it's just really not a good explanation.
As for the question of why we decided to launch our own platform, when we started Watcher in 2020, we wanted to create shows that we were proud of, that we had ownership over, and that would provide you the caliber of content that we felt you deserved. However, we were finding it harder and harder to stay relevant to advertisers and the constantly changing YouTube landscape. We faced some incredibly challenging decisions. We didn't want to compromise our content to ensure they met advertising requirements, and we definitely did not want to lay people off that have brought Watcher to life behind the scenes. And we didn't want to bring Watcher to a close, which would have happened if we stayed solely on YouTube.
That's why we decided to launch the platform, so that we as a company could continue, we could pay our staff fairly, and not only continue to make great content for you, but expand with new shows, new voices, all ad-free. And now with the addition of accessible options, this is a decision that we all believe is the best for Watcher.
However, we realized that in figuring out the logistics of what this might take, we overlooked the way it would impact all of you. We hope you'll be patient with us through these mistakes, and we remain incredibly sorry that they were made in the first place.
It boils down to them having financial difficulties. They want more money, so they've decided to pass the cost of running their business onto their viewers, which has never been an idea that has ever worked for anyone. It just makes viewers mad and hurts your reputation. The thing that's baffling here is that in their explanation of why they needed this, they completely missed the point that a lot of their viewers were making. They talk about how they need to pay their staff fairly, keep people employed, and that's just not viable on the ad model. But for the most part, their viewers are there for Ryan and Shane. They don't need a massive staff to make videos that their audience enjoys. If they want to make television quality stuff, why not approach Netflix for funding? YouTube viewers want authenticity, not corporatization. Also, when you think about this explanation for more than a second, it basically boils down to, we expanded our business too fast and we don't make enough money to keep it as big as it is now. So we want you guys to give us more money because we made business mistakes. I don't think that that's a very compelling argument. Honestly, the only good thing they do in this entire video, besides the corporate feeling apology, is that they finally decided that they shouldn't double dip on their Patreon community, and we'll be giving them free access to the site.
We also want to directly address our Patreon community, who have played such a key role in supporting us from the very beginning. All current Patreon members will receive a free subscription code to the platform. If you already purchased a subscription, please contact us and we will issue you a full refund.
I don't know how they ever thought that they would get away with making their most devoted subscribers, who already send them money every single month, give them more money on a monthly basis for a streaming service. But at least they figured out that that was a massive mistake and fixed it. I'll give them credit there. After making that announcement, they then end the video with them apologizing again and begging people to keep watching them. So was it a good apology? I mean, they made some good steps to try to make this right, but the fact of the matter remains that they seem to be completely out of touch. I don't know whose ego got too big, but at least one of them, probably all of them, seem to be really overestimating their audience pull. And it still completely annoys me more than anything else that basically this entire thing seems to have happened because they made the bad business decision to put together a massive team for their YouTube channel, where they have to pay a ton of people a decent wage when they couldn't afford it with the way that they were currently making money. It's not like that kind of thing sneaks up on you. They made the decision to expand when they shouldn't have and tried to make the viewers eat the cost. Don't even get me started on wondering how many people they hired to make the streaming site. What do you think? Was this a good apology, or was it too little too late? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching all the way till the end. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day and God bless you. So there's been some drama in the Pokemon Go community recently, which is a sentence I didn't think I'd ever say. But basically people are pretty mad because for no real reason, the Pokemon Go devs decided to just completely ruin everyone's in-game avatars. That's right, they completely changed the art style on the users with no real reason. And I don't think it's too controversial to say that that the new art style is not just unpopular, it's just generally worse. So I'm gonna put some examples of the old style avatars on screen now, and here are some that are made with the new style. I mean, it's pretty plain to see that the new ones are just worse. The most egregious examples of this design change are all on avatars of women, as the new update seems to have basically removed any real feminine body types and replaced them with men's body types, or at least masculine ones. I think that it's kind of obvious why they did this, given recent trends in the industry, where companies are moving away from traditional femininity and towards, well, less feminine bodies for characters in video games. Now, the stated reasoning for this, most of the time, is that they want to move away from gender stereotypes to not promote harmful body images in games, which isn't something that I'm sure that games companies need to worry about in general, but almost always leads to the masculinization of women's characters, which feels like it's less representative of women who game, and more representative of this weird image that people in San Francisco have of what the average woman looks like. We've seen this in a number of games recently. For instance, the recent drama about the Stellar Blade game that we talked about not long ago had to do with Western developers and games journalists who believe in this weird San Francisco ideology, claiming that the main character of Stellar Blade, Eve, was not representative of women and getting mad because they don't think that women that look like the character exist. The character is traditionally feminine, only to be destroyed when it came out that the character was based on scans of an actual Korean model who does in fact have the body type that that character has. Now, what's interesting to me is that the people who make Pokemon Go don't seem to have been expecting any major pushback on the changes, as their community manager for the game had to post on Twitter regarding the backlash and looking for responses as to the reasons people were upset. The community manager, who goes by Kestrel Riot on Twitter, posted this tweet: "Avatars. I've been reading and building notes, but I'd love to hear what folks think. Some caveats. Cruelty gets ignored. Critical specific feedback is on what isn't working is great. Saying what you like is just as important as what you don't like. I want both." Oh, and don't forget the completely necessary and not at all pandering tweet reminding people that you're a company that supports everyone. Side note here too, diversity means everyone, so your feedback is valuable regardless of who you are. So I mean, there's nothing like completely objectionable in those tweets, but there's two things to note. Obviously, the fact that the community manager is reaching out for feedback after the change went live and was negatively received means they weren't expecting people to be upset, which honestly isn't that surprising considering that most large game dev studios are an echo chamber of the same ideals, and this change is definitely in line with the weird movement to remove traditional woman body types from games. But it also speaks, I think for obvious reasons, to the political and ideological culture at the Pokemon Go studio. The language from that tweet is very coded towards that weird ideology that rich people in California all seem to have and believe everyone in the rest of the country has. From the use of the word folks to avoid gendered language to the unnecessary reminder that all opinions are valuable regardless of who you are. Not that that's untrue, but them saying that is just a signal that they're on one side of certain issues. So as far as I can tell, that's the reason why they ruined everyone's avatars. Politics. They seem to have been trying to get in line with the industry movement away from traditional femininity in character models, and so just decided to completely rework their art style to make most characters more masculine. It's a trend that I obviously disagree with and that I think is genuinely sexist, but it's what's popular over in California these days, so I doubt they'll revert it unless they lose a bunch of players. So what do you think? Am I right about why they changed the character models? Or do you have a different theory? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Have a great day, and God bless you. So, we've been talking about it for a while now, but it looks like TikTok is finally going to get banned in the United States. That's right, the TikTok ban passed the Senate the other day and was signed into law by Biden yesterday, meaning that if the Chinese government-owned ByteDance doesn't sell their ownership in TikTok, it'll be banned in 9 months to a year. Yeah, I know that sounds like an annoyingly long timeline, but there are reasons for it, some good, some bad. Today, let's talk about what the TikTok ban actually means and how TikTok can avoid it. First, let's go over why TikTok is getting banned. Basically, everybody knows that TikTok is incredibly popular with pretty much everyone under 25. From kids to young adults, TikTok is probably the most popular app out there, and that scares the government. It should probably scare you too, especially if you're more technically literate than most members of the US Congress, because since its launch, TikTok has been controversial because it's owned in part by the Chinese government through the company ByteDance. Yeah, you know, just a totalitarian, evil communist government with a history of human rights violations and a state that the United States is closest to war with on the entire world stage, that Chinese government. It's not hard to understand why our government is afraid of the communist government of China having undue influence over our youth. And once they figured out how bad that could be, it was only a matter of time before they enacted a ban. ban. It's actually funny though, because when the bill was before the House of Representatives, TikTok sent out push notifications to their users, telling them to contact their congressman, leading to hundreds of calls from irate children to their federal representatives, which probably wasn't the best tactic for TikTok to take, since they were accused of having undue influence over American kids, and getting American kids to flood all the phone lines of their government representatives probably proved to more than one congressman who was on the fence that the threat that TikTok poses is real. Imagine the influence you have to have over a kid to get them to care about politics. That's basically impossible. So anyway, the bill passed the House a while back. The Senate held off on passing it for a long time though. As far as I can tell, they did that for two reasons. The first being they wanted to lump it into a news cycle that has them giving more funding for Ukraine and Israel so that they could frame it as a national security thing. The second being because the Democrats had put significant effort into making an effective system to use TikTok to entice voters, which was all going to go to waste once the bill went through. Considering this election is shaping up to be difficult for the Democrats because, well, Biden can barely move and it's hard to get young voters excited to vote for someone that was around during the time of the dinosaurs, they really didn't want TikTok to go away until after the election. The version of the bill that passed the House had a 6-month limit before TikTok would get banned, putting it in place right before the November election. That wasn't good for the Democrats, so they were probably just going to wait until 6 months put it after the election, but instead they managed to convince enough members of Congress that they should extend the timeline so that TikTok has more time to avoid the ban, which we'll get to in a second, trying to hide their actual political motives by giving a different plausible reasoning for why they want an extension. Now that the ban won't take effect until after the election, Democrats don't care anymore because they have 4 more years to figure out a new grift. So it was passed in the Senate and Biden signed it first thing yesterday. Now, what exactly does the bill do? Since the problem with TikTok is that it's tied to the communist government of China, it's pretty simple. It requires TikTok to sell itself to an American or an American-owned company, removing the tendrils of communism from its ownership. Otherwise, American companies such as Apple or Google will no longer be able to offer the app on the App Store. Moreover, they'll be unable to provide any updates to anyone who has it installed already, and no one will be able to install it on a new device anymore. Considering that there's been a lot of accusations about how much information TikTok already collects on their users, and the uncertain reasoning and methods for that collection, yet people still use the app, maybe it won't faze people that TikTok will stop getting security updates, but it probably should. I wouldn't be too worried though, because unless TikTok has a lot of stuff to hide, I can't see any reason why they wouldn't sell. They have 9 months to sell themselves to an American, and the bill allows for an optional 90-day expansion of that timeline if TikTok is in the middle of a deal when that hits. Granted, TikTok seems to be signaling that they won't sell. In fact, it seems like they believe that the TikTok ban is unconstitutional and that they will try to sue and stop it. The CEO of TikTok said as much in a post yesterday.
Rest assured, we aren't going anywhere. We are confident and we will keep fighting for your rights in the courts. The facts and the Constitution are on our side, and we expect to prevail again.
Now, this has worked for them before. Back when Trump tried to ban TikTok, they were able to stop it with legal challenges. But since this time it's a law passed by Congress and not an executive order, which was always a weak and tenuous thing to try to do, since the president actually has way less power than the average American believes, I think that it's likely that they'll have a harder time this time, now that it's been passed by Congress. Moreover, the amount of time that it will take for this to get through the legal system will undoubtedly take more than 9 months, meaning the law could go into effect while they are fighting it. I really don't think the future is bright for TikTok, assuming they don't sell. The question is this actually a good thing or not? Personally, in most cases, I have an issue with the government outright banning companies and products in general. I don't think that's really the purview of the federal government, which often outsteps its bounds and tramples on the state's rights to self-governance. But in this case, where it's an act to stop a foreign adversary from influencing Americans, that does kind of fall directly in the federal government's wheelhouse. It's their job to protect America and her citizens from all threats, foreign and domestic. So while I think that it's probably not a good precedent to set, I also know that there are countries out there that want to cause harm to the American homeland, and I don't think that they should have unfettered access to do as they wish. So I think that generally, as long as these kinds of laws are specifically restricted to only affect companies that have ownership who reside outside of the United States, it's probably a good thing that this bill was passed. Granted, I don't know that the moral questions regarding liberty and safety are going to be top of mind for most people that are upset about this. Most TikTok users are going to be upset because they're going to lose access to all their funny videos, more than they will care about the fundamental questions of government power. It will be interesting to see how big the backlash is here. I think that it's entirely possible that TikTok could use its influence to try to put pressure on lawmakers to rescind the law, whether or not their legal battle goes through. This really is the first kind of law like this, and one that's going to have a lot of impact on a lot of young people who don't actually understand the thought process behind it. So no one really knows how this will go. What will be interesting to see is if creators continue to post on TikTok like nothing is wrong. There are a lot of creators that have not just built audiences on TikTok, but have built entire businesses solely using TikTok to advertise and get their brand out there. Those people are set to lose pretty much everything if TikTok refuses to sell and the ban actually goes into place. So I would think that there will be a mass exodus of people from the platform now. What's the point of posting to a platform that's going to go away in a few months? It would make more sense to try and funnel your TikTok followers to other more stable American-owned platforms. It's possible that the exodus of creators might cause TikTok to start to fail even if they manage to somehow win in court. Granted, that would require the average TikTok user and creator to actually be up to date with current events, so it's unlikely. I do think that this will have effects that no one is expecting though, the least of which are the creators and business owners who will lose everything they've built up. Once the government starts doing something like this, they tend to keep on going. The government is very reluctant to give up power or limit their own power once they've expanded it, so there's a chance that they might misuse this power in the future. Luckily, this is limited because the bill specifically targets social media companies that have a significant ownership from foreign adversaries, which includes TikTok, but can technically be applied to any other social media as well. So it's unlikely that they'll start banning social media left and right. However, it is probably possible that it has completely taken away the ability to build a social media site from any businesses in other countries, because there would be little to stop them from being forced to sell to an American company once they begin to operate in America. Granted, as an American, I feel like we should own everything anyway, because the rest of the world is generally worse than us when it comes to freedom, living standard, and just general vibes. So that part isn't a real issue for me. I'd rather an American own something than anyone anywhere else in the world, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna have more in common with another American than anyone anywhere else. What do you guys think about this? Is the ban a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Do you think that it's government overreach, or is this the exact type of thing the government is supposed to protect us from? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. Remember to like and subscribe. Have a great day, and God bless you. So like, everyone knows what Garry's Mod is, right? Because it's kind of hard to explain. What isn't hard to explain is that Nintendo is once again ruining another good thing and stomping on their fans' hopes and dreams with copyright. I mean, I get that they technically can and kind of need to at least pretend to take stuff that uses their copyright down, but man, Nintendo treats its copyright like a dragon treats its hoard of gold. This time, they're going through like almost 20 years of Garry's Mod workshop assets and demanding that anything related to their IP gets taken down. So today, let's talk about it. If you don't know what Garry's Mod is, the best way to describe it is as a sandbox. There's different servers for all sorts of different game modes, all made by the community. For instance, Harry Potter RP, where you can RP as someone going to Hogwarts or something similar. There's also just a massive amount of user-made assets for the game, uploaded to the Garry's Mod Steam Workshop that you can use whenever, including apparently some Nintendo-owned ones. Since the assets are mostly user-generated, what's happening here is that Nintendo is literally tearing down 20 years of the accumulated efforts of their fans to let them play as or with some Nintendo characters. For instance, I'm sure there was no shortage of different Mario player models on the workshop, so people could have played as Mario in their games, but it seems like that's come to an end. On Wednesday, a new post appeared on the Garry's Mod update page titled Nintendo Stuff on Steam Workshop, with the subtitle, "It's Nintendo, need more be said?" poking fun at Nintendo's extremely litigious attitude. The actual post itself contains more details, saying, "We're working on removing all Nintendo related stuff from the Steam Workshop." And some of you may have noticed that certain Nintendo related workshop items have recently been taken down. This is not a mistake. The takedowns came from Nintendo. Honestly, this is fair enough. This is Nintendo's content, and what they allow and don't allow is up to them. They don't want you playing with that stuff in Garry's Mod. That's their decision. We have to respect that and take down as much as we can. This is an ongoing process, as we have 20 years of uploads to go through. If you want to help us by deleting your Nintendo-related uploads and never uploading them again, that would help us a lot. So yeah, that's probably going to be a lot of different assets and models removed from the workshop, each one of them made and put up there by a Nintendo fan. Not Not a great look for Nintendo, but obviously they don't seem to care at all. This doesn't seem out of character considering the recent trend of going after things beloved by fans. Don't forget we're fresh off Nintendo suing the Yuzu Switch emulator out of existence. Now a weird thing happened when people saw this post, what I can only describe as massive Nintendo fan cope. For some reason, with zero evidence and pointing to Reddit posts as the main source of the claim, users on Twitter started claiming that the takedown requests weren't actually from Nintendo and that they were actually from some dude named Aaron or something. They were so persistent and loud with their claims that I wouldn't be surprised if some of you actually believed that it was real, which it was not. I guess Nintendo fans just don't want to admit that Nintendo doesn't care about them, and so made up a massive lie that ended up spreading like wildfire, all from a few stitched together Reddit posts. The people spreading this rumor were so insistent that it even convinced Gary Newman, that's right, the Gary of Garry's Mod fame, and owner of Facepunch Studios, who make Gmod, to look into it. He tweeted out, "Yes, we have got your emails and DMs, we have seen your threads, and we're doing our own investigations. We need to take these things seriously, particularly from Nintendo, but we also can't let people misuse DMCA takedowns," which was probably a massive mistake because it fanned the flames even more. People were then disappointed when he later updated with a reply, "I have been assured that the takedowns have been verified by Nintendo as legit, so this will now continue as planned. Sorry." And so, the rumor was completely made up. Gary himself has confirmed it. But this hasn't entirely convinced some of the people in his replies, who must have fallen for the rumor hook, line, and sinker. So it looks like all the Nintendo-related Gmod assets will be going the way of the dinosaurs soon, which isn't great, but what can you do about it? It baffles me how Nintendo can constantly make things worse for their fans, and yet always get the benefit of the doubt from them. Don't even get me started talking about how awful the Switch is from a hardware perspective. So what do you guys think? Is Nintendo going too far here? Did you fall for the rumor that claimed the takedowns were false? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching all the way till the end. Remember to like and subscribe. Have a great day, and God bless you.